School children line up to learn about the birth of their country, a troubled journey back in time. For many of these Bangladeshi youngsters, this is the first time they've come to know the details of what happened 37 years ago. A mobile museum has just started touring villages and schools, showing documentation and videos of the War of Liberation with Pakistan, when it is claimed up to 3 million people were killed.
Hi, these are the words of Yahya Khan. Kill 3 million and the rest will eat out of our hands. And that's exactly what happened. Codenamed Operation Searchlight, Pakistani forces systematically murdered 3 million and raped 200 to 500,000 women. Not only did this have a long-lasting impact on the newly found Bangladesh, but it also cemented India's position as the regional power, with shifting alliances including the USA and USSR backing opposing sides. My name is Sabir, let's get into it. To understand why this happened, we need to head back to the subcontinent when it came out of independence from the British in 1947. In 1947, the British Empire was in disarray. It had just come out of a war with Germany, its economy was in a free fall, and its colonies were having nationalistic movements. And that wasn't felt any stronger than India, where its people were in open revolt.
So widespread is it, far-flung as the Pakisabs would say, that one half is in darkness when the other half is in the light.
The way the British ruled and divided the subcontinent caused religious and ethnic differences, and that wasn't felt worse with the divide between the Muslims and the Hindus. Now, if you had them all in one country, that meant there would be a civil war that would occur sooner down the line, political instability, or something worse. So they implemented the two-nation theory, where you would have a Muslim-majority Pakistan and a Hindu-majority India.
The basis of Pakistan, as articulated by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, was that there are only two nations that live on this subcontinent. They are mutually hostile. They cannot ever live in peace. That was part one. Part two was that Muslims form a nation. But the second part is completely nonsensical. If Muslims formed a nation which could live at peace with every part of that nation, we would not have Bangladesh.
India was given the southern, northern, and eastern parts of the subcontinent, while Pakistan would be given the western Muslim regions and the eastern portion known as Bengal. But because a lot of the political and economic institutions were located in West Pakistan, East Pakistan and West Pakistan began already having a divide right after partition. Another key reason why the genocide happened was because of the military dictatorship. When Muhammad Ali Jinnah took power in Pakistan in 1947, he knew he had a big border with India, stretching to East Bengal and Kashmir, where the Indians and the Pakistanis fought the first Indo-Pakistan War. Therefore, he oversaw large spending into the defense sector from the national budget. But this raised some problems. See, the military was getting more powerful and getting more funding, which then meant they launched a coup in 1958 and took power, with Ayub Khan as the chief martial law administrator, head of state, and the military dictator.
Controlled, even now it's controlled, but there has been some relaxation in the last few weeks. The radio, till very recently, wouldn't mention a word about the opposition as if it didn't exist in the country.
During Khan's rule from 1958 through 1969, he aligned Pakistan with the Western Bloc, causing more economic and foreign investment to skyrocket, hence causing Pakistan's economy to explode. The industrial and farming sectors boomed, but since most of the wealth went to the elites like the officers and the landlords, this led to a big economic divide between the lower, middle, and the upper classes. This leads to another divide between the West and the East. Since the East was rural and boasted the majority of the population of Pakistan, they fell economically and their resources were used to improve West Pakistan while the East stagnated.
These 23 years you have seen that East Pakistan, particularly the Bengal, is nothing but a colonial market. If you want to save that and give equal right as a Pakistani, then you have to give Bengal their right to live. And they must be master of their own resources because they have been exploited for long 23 years. It cannot be tolerated anymore.
But it got even worse. In 1965, the Second Indo-Pakistan War kicked off.
The Indians say the 4,000 guerrillas are Pakistani-led. They started widespread attacks in Indian Kashmir. The Indians say that 300 of the infiltrators are still at large. They claim to have killed 1,000. The other side also claims big kills.
Eventually a ceasefire was reached, but this led to tensions in the east. People hate in the east towards the government in the west increased, and the Awami League, which gained significant power after the war, demanded autonomy because the east wasn't given adequate security against India during the wars, and was being treated more of like a colony than an equal part in the Pakistani Union. Now, keep in mind the Awami League, they're very important to the story. Because of the mass uprisings and the protests in East Pakistan, Ayub Khan resigned in 1969.
One no less grave than the other. The first challenge is posed by India's hostility.
With his successor being Yahya Khan. Just like Ayub Khan, Yahya Khan resented East Pakistan with a passion, and it reached a boiling point with the 1970 Bola cyclone that hit East Pakistan hard.
Known notoriously as the most deadly and destructive natural disaster in history,
the Bola cyclone is a great example of what happens when a perfect storm hits the Earth.
Up to 300 to 500,000 people were killed. So, what did Khan do? He postponed the elections to let the East recover. But this move and the poor relief effort by the West Pakistani government caused widespread protests and uprisings in East Pakistan, and it helped the Awami League gain a foothold in the elections. Hence, they won.
আজকে তিনি আমি প্রেসিডেন্ট ইয়াহিয়া খান সাহেবের সঙ্গে দেখা করেছি, আপনারা জানেন, আলাপ আলোচনা করেছি। আমি পাক শুধু বাংলার নয়, পাকিস্তানের মেজরিটি পার্টির নেতা হিসাবে তাকে অনুরোধ করলাম 15 ফেব্রুয়ারি তারিখে আপনি জাতীয় পরিষদের অধিবেশন দেন। তিনি আমার কথা রাখলেন না।
Yahya Khan thought it was unthinkable that if the AL under Sheikh Mujibur Rahman won, the party that was founded in East Pakistan, Bengal, that he'd lose his power, and it was intolerable that a Bengali should lead the country. So, with a few of his officers, and with his puppet president candidate, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, they drew up a general massacre for the country, not only to curb the Awami League's power and influence, but also the rising Bengali nationalist movement that was happening. And this massacre would claim up to 3 million people. The genocide began on March 25th, 1971.
We came on this boat to go to another place, but after we got here we heard stories about incredible atrocities from the people, about a place nearby.
The Pakistani army shelled the University of Dhaka, killing 30 people, and then they entered the student dormitories, shooting and bayoneting the rest. Subsequently that night, in the capital city of Dhaka, 7,000 people were murdered, and another 3,000 were arrested. Soon, all over East Pakistan, everybody would feel the wrath of the army for the next 9 unholy months.
Cries the singer, look, the Pakistanis have turned golden Bengal into a morgue, a graveyard.
The Pakistani army had objectives. They wanted control of all major cities in Bangladesh. They wanted to make sure in all parts of East Pakistan that no one would demand rights that the elites bestowed upon themselves. They wanted Bangladesh as long as possible for maximum exploitation. In the initial months of the genocide, the army slaughtered with ease, looting and raping as they pleased. Promotions were given to the officers, and the more you killed, the more promotion you gained. But after the first initial months, the army's pace was slowed down due to demoralization and the growing resistance movement by the Bengalis, known as the Mukti Bahini, or the Freedom Fighters. There's no justification for genocide at any point, but the Pakistanis, who were content with mutilating their own brethren, had one. They claimed that the Bengalis were Hindu. They had convinced themselves the Bengalis hid behind Islam's mask and were secretly Hindus who loved India more than Pakistan, but that was far from it. When a people have been subjugated under an imperial power and then subjugated under another power, they will rise up, and that's exactly what happened. Though the losses were heavy and they knew that, people began fighting, knowing the army was on the hunt for them, and with the use of their most powerful asset, the radio, the Bengalis were on high alert. In the day, men were on the lookout while women and children were kept hidden, but in the night, the Bengalis were in the offensive. Resistance was organized, but not in the way you expect. Yes, they were united under Sheikh Mujib Rahman. Yes, they did want to expel the Pakistani forces, but the freedom fighters did not have any communication with each other. So, if one pocket of resistance was to be rooted out by the Pakistani forces, they wouldn't have any information about the other resistance pockets. United together, individually separated. While the Pakistanis were content with killing, thinking that the rebellion would be quelled soon, resistance mounted in the country and the Bangladeshis were expected to win in an estimated few years. The Pakistanis' estimate of victory was skewed. They figured killing 3 million in a country of 70 million would put down a rebellion. They were wrong. They rounded up the intellectuals before cutting the communication networks. They were wrong. They indiscriminately killed, thinking it wouldn't help mount resistance in the country. They were wrong. In a war, the prepared power underestimated its enemy. 10 million refugees fled to India, and Pakistan was poised to attack. The Bengalis will be given grace on December 3, 1971, when Pakistan caused preemptive strikes on India's air bases, and when Khan declared a jihad, or a holy war against India, starting the Third Indo-Pakistan War. It was a rather quick war because on the same December of that year, on 16th, Pakistani forces surrendered to India in Dhaka. The war was over. The genocide was over. Bangladesh was free and its people achieved freedom. But they won at a cost. Pakistan painted the country red. The people were displaced. The economy was destroyed completely. People had achieved freedom though, but they won at a cost, and the problems were only starting to begin. What happened in Bangladesh is a phenomenon known across history. When man has enough power but lacks popular support, he'll commit an act of terror and coward away when it's done. Yahya Khan, when he gave the word for the massacres, flew from Dhaka to West Pakistan, comforting himself with alcohol and women. But Bangladesh is better now. Its economy is in the top 10 in Asia, and it rid itself of a 15-year dictatorship in 2024 under Sheikh Hasina, who was the daughter of Sheikh Mujib. Genocide is a tool used by men so remote from society that it shows their contempt for humanity as a whole. But always remember, when the oppressed have been subjugated for too long, they will rise up. Thank you.